And this is the fun part, mixing it together. So that didn't drop much. The fats didn't drop much in temperature, so we're just going to go ahead and mix the two together. So when I first started making soap, I was doing it the old-fashioned way, you know, just like everything was non-electronic. I didn't even know about this stick blender for the longest time until a friend of mine that made soap told me about this. It saved my arm and the arms of my family members. So before the stick blender came along, for me, it would take me a good hour and a half to stir the soap before it became thick enough to put in the mold. Now it takes me about 15 minutes max. Love it, wonderful tool. Okay, here we go. I'm going to take, oh yeah, we have the tea bag in here. I want to go ahead and take the tea bag out. Where's the other side of it? There we go. Whoopsie. It's all slimy now. Okay. So it really got a lot of color out. We'll just put it in here in this bowl for the time being. Oh yes, you know, I knew I was going to forget something, and it was the goat milk. Okay. The goat milk I had already pre-measured earlier before I put it in the freezer, so we don't need to measure it again. I'm going to go ahead and mix these together. Yeah, let's go ahead and put the goat milk in there for kicks and giggles. You can do it either way. I have noticed that when I'm using goat milk and I put it into the lye, but when it's really hot, there's another chemical reaction there because the lye is reacting to the fat in the goat milk, and it creates some soap already, and then it also starts to burn the goat milk, which turns it more of a golden color, which is not a bad thing if you want kind of a golden yellowish color soap. But if you don't, then you'll really want to wait until you're at this point to put your goat milk in. You could even wait until you get to a light trace. So let's go ahead and pour it in. Slowly, slowly drizzle it in. Ooh, that looks dark, doesn't it? I have this carafe with the little pour spout, which is nice. It really does help drizzle better. But you can also use a jar that has a lid. You can puncture a hole in the lid so you're just getting a small stream in there if you want to. I usually give it a nice little stir, combine everything really well, and then I'll grab my stick blender and get going with that. Alright, this is the fun part. You really get to see how much it changes. You saw how dark it was, and as soon as I do the stick blender, watch what happens. Oh, by the way, make sure your stick blender is all the way submerged under the liquid. Already starting to get a little lighter. Okay, so at this point, at this stage, you'll want to look for something here. If any of y'all have had experience with making jam or jelly and the old-fashioned way with just sugar, when it gets to the certain thickness that you want, it'll trace. And that just means that you can kind of trail your spoon on top of the jam in the pot, and you can see a little pattern that stays. Or you can take your spoon and dip it in there, and it'll kind of sheet off of the spoon. So kind of the same thing with soap. When it gets close to being done, or when it's thick enough, it's called trace. So look here for example. If I just kind of stir this around and gently lift the spoon, lift the blender up, you can kind of see a little pattern there on the top, almost like pudding. This is probably like the consistency of your homemade pudding. And so that's called light trace. And this is the point when I want to start doing the add-ins to it. So earlier we talked about how each of the fats has a saponification value. You want to make sure you balance the right amount of fat with the right amount of lye. And it doesn't leave any free fat. Once that chemical reaction has happened, it won't leave any free fat in your soap. However, I like to super fat my soap. It just gives it that extra moisturizing quality, I guess. So I use some castor oil in the soap, just a little bit. Like in this recipe, I'm only going to use a tablespoon and a half. But this is the point where I will put the castor oil in there. So we've already stirred a lot. We've given the lye a lot of opportunity to bind with the fat. So I'm going to pour in the castor oil, and I've already pre-measured all the essential oils that I want in the soap. So we'll pour all those in there too. And I just put the plastic wrap over it so that the essential oils wouldn't evaporate too much. Wish you could smell it. It smells delicious. Earthy and sweet and spicy. Woodsy. And if you're interested in this blend, we'll put the names of the essential oils down at the bottom. So let's just give it another stir, and we'll make sure it's all mixed in really good. Okay, check out that now. Now you can really see that pattern on the top. Look at that. I hope you can see that okay in the video. But that's really thick now, and that is good. This is the point where we can pour it into the mold. I've got one more thing to do, but this is when it's time. So yeah, the fragrances or the essential oils I used today, it was my own concoction because I was trying to duplicate this particular soap that my husband loves so much. So today I used ylang ylang, cinnamon, patchouli, rosemary, and what was the other one? Oh yeah, cypress. I used those 5, so we'll see how it turns out. It really smells good. It really does smell good right now. But the cool thing about this soap is that if you're using essential oils and natural colors, sometimes the finished product will be a little different than what you started off with. So it still looks pretty dark, but it's going to lighten up a little bit as it sits and cures. So one more thing I told you I wanted to do is, let's move this. Okay. I want this little tiger stripe in it. So what I'm going to do is let me get this cleaned off here. We're done with this. Okay, I'm going to pour a little bit of this into my separate bowl. I just want a little thin stripe going through it, so I'll take some of this. Mix in some of this black walnut powder. Now I'm just going to use a little bit because I know from a friend of mine that black walnut, too much of it, will stain your hands. So, like I said, this is kind of the experiment soap. Let's get that mixed in good. Ooh, you might have to use a little bit more. This looks like peanut butter fudge. Oh my goodness. Oh, it does. I might have to call this fudge soap instead of tiger soap. Well, I don't think my husband will mind because he loves peanut butter and fudge. Peanut butter and chocolate. Now, I'm just going to stir and swirl, and then we'll be ready to pour it into the mold. Yes. Ooh, yeah. Okay, here we go. Sorry guys, I know I can't see that very well, but as soon as I get this pan scraped down, I'll let you see a little bit better. And I'm using this rubber spatula, so like I said, rubber, as long as it's heavy duty, will really be fine if you're working with the lye water and the raw soap. Okay. All right. Let's get that smoothed across the top a little bit. And it's always a surprise to me what it turns out looking like, because once you cut it, you find out what beautiful patterns happened in the soap. It's always different. Every batch is different. Now we're to the point where we can put the soap to bed. And so, like I said earlier, we're just gonna I'm gonna put it in a back room where it can be undisturbed. Put some cardboard over it, cover it with a blanket, and let it sit until probably tomorrow afternoon to finish the whole saponification process. And then we'll take it out and cut it into pieces.